Chapter 1. Peter did not know his attraction to Debbie had become fatal. That's probably because he did not realize a serial killer had factored into his love equation. The laughter and easy banter Peter and Debbie had enjoyed at a singles function a few days earlier had fueled the rage of a serial killer named John. John, the serial killer, figured there was only one way to solve this equation: subtraction. John was introduced to Debbie 2 days ago at the latest singles rage: speed dating. Why spend an entire night waiting for a bad date to end when only a few minutes were needed to determine if there would be chemistry or not? This philosophy had not worked to the advantage of John, who believed 8 minutes was just not enough time to bear his soul to a partner. How could he ever condense the last 33 years of his life, not to mention 6 murders, in that amount of time? It didn't take Debbie the full 8 minutes to realize John was not going to be her next soulmate, let alone her next dinner mate. The last 3 minutes of the introduction were spent in uncomfortable silence. The moderator of the event then rang a bell indicating their time was up. This meant that the single men at the event would now trade their seats in order to meet the next woman. Women participants remained seated at tables while male candidates visited their tables in clockwise rotation based upon the letters of the alphabet. John was now going to table M, and Peter would now enjoy the company of the gorgeous brunette, named Debbie, at table L. John barely spoke to the red-headed woman seated at table M. He was too busy watching Debbie's face light up at table L. Debbie bared a smile, revealing her pearly white teeth and sparkling brown eyes for Peter. Unconsciously, Debbie's left hand began to stroke the curly ends of her lustrous black hair. John translated this as sexual interest for Peter. John knew Debbie and Peter would be hooking up. It was highly likely they had marked their attendance ballots to request each other's phone number. John realized there was only an infinitesimal chance that Debbie had requested his number. He decided not to request hers, in a futile effort to maintain his self-esteem. After all, why should he allow the speed dating moderator the satisfaction of mocking him? John would have to go to Plan B if he was to save face. After the introduction process had been completed, John decided he would get to know the man who had stepped between him and his latest love interest. After a few minutes of small talk, John was able to establish that Peter was a divorced software manager who lived in the Boston suburb of Needham, Massachusetts. The killer also learned that Peter did not work on Tuesdays. John had all the information he needed. He left the small Framingham bar, aptly called Whirlpools, as a tidal wave of emotions once again threatened to drown the last vestige of sanity in him. John's emotions eventually ebbed. His ranting gave in to a mental numbness. He utilized this state to immerse himself in work for the next 5 days. When Tuesday morning finally arrived, John picked up his cell to call out sick. A nauseous feeling in his stomach and dizziness in his head reminded him of his next appointment with death. Maneuvering his Lexus IS 300 through the usual heavy traffic on Route 1, John had time to reflect on his past murders. They all had it coming, he rationalized in reference to his 6 victims. All of his previous murders were a necessary means to an end. The 4 women and 2 men he had killed painfully confirmed his distaste for a crazy little thing called love. John hated the part of himself that kept seeking salvation in this despised emotion. But he was hardwired, just like every other heterosexual male, to keep swimming upstream to land the big catch. John insanely reasoned that one day he would meet the love of his life. She would be an unattainable type of woman, a princess who would never criticize or hurt him. He fantasized that the 2 of them would one day look back at his present distressed life and laugh. The chances that John would find a woman who could chuckle about his murder sprees were quite slim, however.
to keep listening to this audiobook. I've left you a link in the description so you can do it at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.